Thank you for joining us for today's discussion of femininity in Latinx culture.
My grandmother, she was born in the 1910s. Her way to independence was by marrying my grandfather when she was 18. And my grandfather was so possessive that he always followed her when she went to the market. He never taught her how to drive, so as to prevent her from escaping. She didn't really have control of her life. But I do think that it's admirable that she was able to give her daughters what she couldn't have, which was education. In my Mexican experience, I feel that it's always the education we receive at home. My mom, when I was 14, stopped doing my laundry, and she continued doing my brother's laundry, even though he's older. And she would give me more house tasks because it was my responsibility. And I was always like, why does my brother do not get to do those tasks?
My grandmother was also a very important figure for me. And she had this line that every woman deserved to be a widow for a few years, she would say. And my grandpa was my grandpa was pretty good. Like, she would go to Europe by herself and my grandpa would stay with 5 kids. Even though I think that she was somewhat forward thinking for her time, she would say things to me like as if my decisions would have to be taken in order of what would allow me to be a mom, or like what men would like. Men don't like if you're too available. Men don't like if you call them too much. If you want to be a doctor, well, how would you be a mom? Oh, if you want to be a teacher, that allows you to have children. I don't think that is even something that you're aware of, and you're passing it on. And I could see like cousins, male cousins, just like holding plates and saying, Mom, I don't know how to serve my own food. And it's almost like, but it's like a loving thing, it's like a loving thing from the mom, yet to make you completely useless. The other day, my boyfriend was going on and on of his music. He does electronic music, and I do not know a thing. And then I say, I'm so sorry, I don't know more about this. And I found myself apologizing because I was not more accommodating of this, and I hated that.
My grandmother didn't like the fact that she didn't have her own money, so she, on her own, made a little business. She had acquired a lot of financial freedom. My grandfather was like angry and depressed. He no longer felt the agency that he thought that he was given by being the breadwinner. My family's always been very open, whether it's been like about, especially the women, about our bodies and about what happens, but it's always filtered through a male gaze of like, you should make sure that you shave at this age because that is when men start to, notice your legs. We're constantly told that you have value when a man wants to be with you.
One of the things that my grandma would tell me, when you have your husband, you have to wake up 30 minutes earlier to get your makeup on and look pretty and have his breakfast ready so he doesn't leave you. But why do we have to do that? Why can't he do that for me? Isn't it supposed to be equal? Isn't it supposed to go both ways? And she would stop and say, you know what, that's right. I never thought about it that way. What is the toys that we are given? I had like a miniature kitchen so I could play how to cook and clean. I had a little doll, so I was her mom, kind of training yourself during these formative years of your life of what the role is that you're supposed to be taking in society. And if you feel that that doesn't align with you, then somehow you're not perceived as the normal, as the nurturing woman, or kind, or any of the things that we are being told of what we are supposed to be.
I think it's so important to look at our ancestors because either we like it or not, we are our mother, we are our mother's mother, and way before that. It's so hard to look at yourself and really take decisions for yourself and be autónomo when you are just pushed onto this titles of what women are supposed to do. So whenever I moved to New York, I was suddenly hit with the reality of, okay, I get to make my own decisions. I get to create my own reality. I get to see how I want to live my life. And is this the way I want to live my life, the way my grandma and my mom and everyone has taught me? Or do I want to challenge those preconceptions that I've been fed over the years? I've been thinking a lot about femininity as, is it something that is socially constructed, or is something biologically just in our bodies, or it's a mix of both, right? But I think it's so important to isolate a moment the masculine figure and just look at yourself and inwards and being like, okay, what would my thoughts be if I excluded completely, just for a second, because we cannot exclude masculine forever, right? It's just part of the world. But just really looking into ourselves and being like, okay, this preconception of what I have as a woman, is it because of a man preconception? Is this what I think of that, or is this innately what I think of myself?
9 times out of 10, what an adult will say to a child, a little girl, is, hello, you look so pretty. Like, that is the first thing. It's never, how are you feeling? What are you thinking about? What do you think about this? What do you want to be when you grow up? But I think the thing that was always even-handedly taught to me and my sister was that you need to know how to attract a man, and you also need to know how to protect yourself, because the male that you need will attack you if you are too alluring, whatever that means. I always got the sense with my mother and with my extended family, my aunts in Colombia, my cousins and everyone, that the way the woman expressed her freedom was through being the Virgin Mary, was through being just prim, proper, knowing how to keep the home, religious, thin, preferably white. It's this paradox of like, oh, this is how they empower themselves, that they think that that means they have a choice, is like, if I am just the most that I can be, then I am running a show because I've ticked off all of those boxes. But like the absurd amount of scrutiny that I felt from my parents and the adults was on another level. The absurd amount of scrutiny on women. It did feel like the men, my father or my uncles, had the final say. The amount of times I was told, Alexandra, que vulgar, like growing up, it's crazy, because it was like any sense that I felt of my own masculine energy. I mean, my God, cutting my hair into a pixie cut was like, no. Any weight gain, that's vulgar. Any profanity, it's vulgar. If you're working as a waitress, you're vulgar. Guys are not going to like it. And also you are giving them the wrong idea.
My dad was very overbearing on my mom. And she was very much the person who was like, okay, I'm going to serve him. I'm going to do everything I can. I'm going to do the laundry. I'm going to cook. I'm going to take care of the kids and all this stuff. And then I saw a huge change when she started working. He started becoming violent towards her because of that, because he didn't want her to be, you know, out and about. And I think a lot of that toxic culture comes from the fact that not only is it ingrained in women to be the the caretaker and provider for the children, but it's so ingrained in men that you have to be the breadwinner. You have to be this person that shows no emotion. And that idea is almost as toxic as the fact that women are put on this, pedestal of they have to be the caretaker, because it takes two to tango in a sense. Like there has to be change on both ends for there to be some type of progress, because if we don't change that mentality in men, then we can't change that mentality in women.
As a Mexican woman, sometimes it feels like a death sentence. You're always in danger. Indigenous women, they're the most vulnerable. And that intersects with colonization and how our approach to whiteness works. Gender roles were reinforced with the colonization, because otherwise indigenous people had another way of thinking. Muxes in Oaxaca are two-spirited beings, and they were cherished by their community. What really has opened my eyes with femininity, masculinity, has really truly been the queer community, because they're the ones doing a lot of the work of deconstructing gender roles, gender stereotypes. I'm queer, my partner is queer. When my mom met her, she was like, oh, so you're the man of the relationship. And it was basically because I like wear flannels and like look more masculine, but I'm like, this is, I am so feminine. What are you talking about?
Whatever your culture decided that is beautiful, you can't do anything about it if you are not born with those standards, or if your body doesn't shape like those standards, right? So then we teach women that their only value is to be beautiful. Nothing that I do is going to be enough until there's no like seal of a man approves you. My poor boyfriend, he's like, I'm so angry that I'm not going to do any of these gender roles, and I'm not going to be all of these things that, and like, kind of like, yeah, no one was expecting you to. And then now I feel it comes like as anger, and I don't know what to do with that. Talking to a friend who's having a baby, she was like saying, I don't want to have a boy because I don't know how to raise a man to not be part of this patriarchal society. What do you take and what do you leave? You know, what doesn't work for you? Like, I leave all of these expectations, but I do like makeup, you know, and I'm going to keep that. I think it's so much work and such a fine line of what is what.
My mom was teaching me and my sister how to dance with a man. And she was saying, you need to put your arm against his chest, and so he can't come in any closer, and you lock it. But then with your other arm, you pull him close whenever you want to. Like, it's all of these like literal techniques on how to protect yourself while also being alluring. It's really hard to have these conversations with my family because many times they come from a place of love and they come from a place of positivity. It's just in coming from a place that is slightly problematic. My entire family has been wanting me to get surgeries and things to make myself more desirable in order to find someone that would want me more. So in having these conversations and trying to have like put up a mirror to them and see, like, do you realize what you're saying? It's very complicated because many times they don't. Many times they're like, that's just the way it is. Yeah, it's unfair, but that's just the way it is. And there's nothing you can do about it. So you have to either play the game of society, or you need to, or you dwindle away down the river and everyone forgets about you. That's in one way, I think, what perpetuates the constant violence, particularly against women and trans women, because in trying to push away from the people hypersexualizing us, and whenever we're pushing away from or taking away someone else's power over us, that is when the violence comes out. And now it's happening all over the place. Now it's happening in lawmaking. A lot of activism is coming out, and so the backlash of violence is elevating. Why is it that men feel the need to take off their jacket and give it to the woman if she's cold, if he's going to be cold too? It's not like men have an extra coat of skin where they're not going to feel cold. We have to hold everyone to similar standards in order to really get to the root of the problem.
Because we are being told, don't stand like that because it's going to be blah, blah. Don't cross your legs like that because blah, blah. And you start to filter yourself so much that you don't present yourself in life as your true self. And that is very, very sad and conflicting. So it's a lot of work, but important work to do to unlearn all of that so we can just live a full life as ourselves without having all these rules and beliefs being imposed on us, and we don't keep passing them along.
Femininity is whatever you want to define it as. It doesn't have to have a title. It doesn't have to mean anything specific to anyone else. I have a lot of homework to do from now on to not live in reaction to trying to do the opposite that I've been taught, just to be like, I don't want to be that, but also not being everything that I've been taught, just finding the middle ground and finding my truest self and finding my truest femininity. Because I think just then, whenever I find that, I think we're going to be completely free. And I think that's my way of changing the world and the future generations.
I just think that it's really important to keep having these conversations, not only with just all women, but including everybody in the conversation, so that we can get people to a place where they're ready to make those changes in themselves, to be better towards everybody, and make sure that women and men and the LGBTQIA plus community all feel safe constantly, and we don't have to put on these masks every day to present ourselves to society, to make ourselves more palpable.
Keep having the conversations and communicate with the people in your life. Like, ask the hard questions. I say things like, I feel like you're expecting me to do this and that, or like, what you're doing and saying, it's making me feel like that's that, and you might not mean it, but this is how I'm interpreting. Just to be very clear, on the same table, and to also free yourself from expectations. And you know what? Do whatever the fuck you want. Wear whatever the fuck you want. Life is so short. Forget the expectations. Forget that burden. Seriously, like, it's so hard, but like, work to free yourself. And as artists, like, let's show it on our art.
Thank you.
Salud.
Salud.